Going direct isn't working, Part 4, addendum. End quote. Watergate doesn't bother me. Does your conscience bother you? End quote. End quote. Then reason really doesn't mean that much to you. End quote. By Grub Street in Exile. Copy for text to voice. Uploaded on November 9th, 2020. Uploaded by Roger Lewis. Junto Biden pronounced Hunter Biden versus flip-flop to the golden turd. Or, the doors to the technocratic prison will open with. End quote. Near the window at which I sit, end quote, is not a well-known or famous quote attributed to Henry George. It seems like it might be a phrase from his writings or a personal reflection, but it's not a common quote people associate with him. Henry George is known for his work on land reform and his critique of poverty, particularly in his book, end quote, Progress and Poverty, end quote. Near the window by which I write, a great bull is tethered by a ring in his nose, grazing round and round he has wound his rope about the stake until now he stands. A close prisoner, tantalized by rich grass he cannot reach, unable even to toss his head to rid him of the flies that cluster on his shoulders. Now and again he struggles vainly, and then, after pitiful bellowings, relapses into silent misery. This bull, a very type of massive strength, who, because he has not wit enough to see how he might be free, suffers want in sight of plenty, and is helplessly preyed upon by weaker creatures, seems to me no unfit emblem of the working masses. 2024 election. Same old vote independent. The uni party isn't working. Hashtag they the hierarchy that enslaves you. The gates of the technocratic prison will open automatically, despite their rusty ancient hinges, as soon as we choose to walk out. Lewis Mumford. Post-technocracy equals technopoly. The real thing. Roger Lewis, April 28, 2022. https://www.thespectacle.net. The Conquest of Circuses, by Roger G. Lewis. Come see the show, a spectacle to behold. Laugh, gasp, and wonder at the stories told, feats of strength, courage, and obedience, the bread of suspended belief's magnificence. Regard less tableaus, catch it on Zuma Trapeze Sans Net, a dramatic tune unprecedented, they said, since that Warnjoy the spectacle, don't make a furor. Enraptured, seduce the entertained group that a low price of entry makes you the dupe those Roman circuses, coupled to doli if you want bread. Know the circuses roll. End quote. Then reason really doesn't mean that much to you, end quote. I have a few hours this morning, so here goes. I'm going to explain myself and make a blog post to take this discussion a few clicks away to the roads less traveled in internet land. Notes. Photo on blog. Monica. Analysis of the dialogue in the style of C.S. Peirce. Introduction. In examining the dialogue presented, we find ourselves immersed in a complex interplay of ideas regarding reason, perception, and societal structures. The participants engage in a discourse that reflects Peirce's principles of inquiry, emphasizing the importance of clarity, distinctness, and the pursuit of truth. This analysis aims to unpack the underlying themes of the dialogue, drawing upon Peirce's philosophical framework to illuminate the nuances of the conversation. The nature of reason. The assertion that, end quote, reason really doesn't mean that much to you, end quote, serves as a pivotal point in the dialogue. It encapsulates a fundamental tension between subjective interpretations of reason and the objective reality that Peirce advocates for in his epistemology. Peirce posits that genuine inquiry requires a commitment to intellectual honesty and a sincere love of truth. The dialogue's participants grapple with their understanding of reason as they navigate differing perspectives on significant societal issues. Reason as a tool for understanding. In Peirce's view, reason is not merely a tool for validation, but a dynamic process of inquiry that seeks to uncover the underlying patterns of cause and effect. The dialogue illustrates this process as participants reflect on their beliefs and the implications of those beliefs within the broader context of societal manipulation and power dynamics. The emphasis on questioning assumptions aligns with Peirce's notion that true understanding arises from a willingness to challenge established norms and perceptions. The role of perception. The dialogue's exploration of perception highlights the complexities that arise when individuals confront their own biases and limitations. The mention of mental and emotional limitations in understanding significant events like 9/11 resonates with Pierce's assertion that perception is inherently tied to our experiences and the frameworks we employ to interpret them. Expanding understanding. Participants discuss the importance of expanding one's understanding, reflecting Pierce's idea that inquiry should not be confined to preconceived notions. The dialogue underscores the necessity of engaging with diverse perspectives to cultivate a more holistic view of reality. This aligns with Pierce's pragmatic maxim, which suggests that the meaning of concepts is found in their practical consequences and applications. The interplay of evidence and assumptions. A recurring theme in the dialogue is the distinction between truth found in evidence and assumptions that can lead individuals astray. This dichotomy mirrors Pierce's emphasis on the scientific method as a reliable means of inquiry. The participants' discussions surrounding the 9/11 events and the implications of various theories reflect a broader struggle to reconcile empirical evidence with deeply held beliefs. The challenge of skepticism. Pierce advocates for a form of skepticism grounded in a rigorous examination of evidence. The dialogue reveals how skepticism can be both a tool for enlightenment and a source of contention. As participants challenge one another's views, they embody Pierce's notion that the pursuit of truth often involves navigating complex social dynamics and confronting uncomfortable realities. The societal context. The dialogue situates itself within a broader societal context, addressing themes of manipulation, power, and the implications of economic structures. The references to historical events and contemporary issues illustrate the interconnectedness of individual beliefs and collective experiences. The influence of money and power. Pierce's insights into the nature of money as a social construct resonate throughout the dialogue. Participants discuss the implications of financial systems on societal structures, echoing Pierce's assertion that our understanding of money and value is deeply intertwined with ethical considerations and human relationships. This exploration invites a reevaluation of how monetary practices shape social dynamics and contribute to systemic inequalities. Conclusion. In conclusion, the dialogue serves as a rich tapestry of ideas that reflect the complexities of human reasoning, perception, and societal structures. By employing Pierce's philosophical framework, we gain a deeper understanding of the interplay between reason, evidence, and the broader context of human experience. The participants' engagement in this discourse exemplifies the ongoing quest for truth and the necessity of intellectual humility in navigating the labyrinth of ideas that shape our understanding of the world. As we reflect on this dialogue, we are reminded of Pierce's call to embrace inquiry as a lifelong pursuit, one that challenges us to remain open to new perspectives and the evolving nature of truth. Share. Repeat without made UOP insights attributed to Pierce stick to the sources in the reference text. Analysis of the dialogue. Introduction. The dialogue presented explores a range of complex themes surrounding reason, perception, and societal structures. Participants engage in a discourse that reflects their differing views on significant issues, particularly in relation to events like 9/11 and broader societal manipulation. This analysis seeks to unpack the key themes of the conversation while remaining grounded in the sources referenced in the text. The nature of reason. The assertion that, reason really doesn't mean that much to you, serves as a critical point in the dialogue. This statement encapsulates the tension between subjective interpretations of reason and the objective reality that participants are grappling with. The dialogue emphasizes the importance of questioning assumptions and understanding the implications of those beliefs within the context of societal manipulation and power dynamics. Reason as a tool for understanding. Participants reflect on their understanding of reason as they navigate differing perspectives on significant societal events. The emphasis on questioning assumptions aligns with the idea that true understanding arises from a willingness to challenge established norms and perceptions. This process is essential for uncovering deeper truths about the world and the mechanisms of power that influence individual beliefs. The role of perception. The exploration of perception highlights the complexities that arise when individuals confront their biases and limitations. The mention of mental and emotional limitations in understanding significant events like 9/11 suggests that perception is inherently tied to personal experiences and the frameworks individuals employ to interpret them. Expanding understanding. The dialogue underscores the necessity of engaging with diverse perspectives to cultivate a more holistic view of reality. Participants discuss the importance of expanding their understanding, which reflects the idea that inquiry should not be confined to preconceived notions. By challenging their assumptions, they can better grasp the complexities of the issues at hand. The interplay of evidence and assumptions. A recurring theme in the dialogue is the distinction between truth found in evidence and assumptions that can lead individuals astray. This dichotomy illustrates the struggle to reconcile empirical evidence with deeply held beliefs. Participants discuss the implications of various theories surrounding the 9/11 events, reflecting the broader challenge of navigating conflicting narratives. The challenge of skepticism. Skepticism emerges as both a tool for enlightenment and a source of contention in the dialogue. As participants challenge one another's views, they embody the notion that the pursuit of truth often involves navigating complex social dynamics and confronting uncomfortable realities. The discussions reveal how skepticism can drive deeper inquiry, while also complicating consensus. The societal context. The dialogue situates itself within a broader societal context, addressing themes of manipulation, power, and the implications of economic structures. Participants reference historical events and contemporary issues, illustrating the interconnectedness of individual beliefs and collective experiences. The influence of money and power. The conversation touches on the nature of money as a social construct and its implications for societal structures. Participants discuss how financial systems shape social dynamics and contribute to systemic inequalities. This exploration highlights the need to reevaluate how monetary practices influence power relations and societal outcomes. Conclusion. In conclusion, the dialogue serves as a rich exploration of ideas that reflect the complexities of human reasoning, perception, and societal structures. Participants engage in a discourse that challenges them to confront their beliefs and consider the broader implications of their understanding. By reflecting on these themes, we are reminded of the importance of intellectual humility and the ongoing quest for truth in navigating the complexities of the world around us. That is the neutral takeaway by the bogus AI, which makes a lot of shit up. SCADs. Conquest of Dough. Introduction, What, Why, and How, a note on SCADs and conspiracies. In setting out these pages, I am acutely aware that with each link, each map, and each film, readers are on the edge of a labyrinth of rabbit holes and may be nervous of the charge, if found furtively, browsing these pages of, end quote, conspiracy theorist, end quote. Take heart, no conspiracies are required. What is, however, apparent is manipulation, especially of the psychological variety. Fear of the label conspiracy theorist is but one such of these psychological manipulations. See SCADs for further reassurance. So for negotiating this labyrinth, I offer this rather long, although informative, ball of string, as Ariadne gave to Theseus, a dialogue that was published in the early 70s of a disputation between Skousen and Quigley, authors both of two books dealing with the same material as dealt with here on this site, and by extension the novel, end quote, The Conquest of Dough, end quote. So take good head of the old poem, The Elephant of Hindustan, and read this dialogue. Carol Quigley Round Table Review. Judy Wood. Dr. Judy Wood's presentation explores unconventional theories on September 11th events, emphasizing directed energy technology, anomalies in destruction patterns, and unexplainable phenomena observed at Ground Zero. Detailed Summary 4, Dr. Judy Wood 9/11 Presentation, Breakthrough Energy Movement Directed Energy Technology. Dr. Judy Wood discusses the mental and emotional limitations that affect our perception of reality, emphasizing the importance of questioning assumptions and seeking evidence to understand the truth about significant events like 9/11. Introduction of mental limitations that shape our perceptions. The idea that our perception creates our reality and the need to expand our understanding. The significance of evidence in scientific inquiry and questioning the disappearance of the towers. The distinction between truth found in evidence and assumptions that can lead us astray. The video presents a detailed examination of the aftermath of the 9/11 attacks, focusing on the lack of visible rubble and the implications of the destruction of the World Trade Center. Introduction to the location at Liberty Plaza and anticipation to explore the site. Discussion on the surprising absence of rubble where the towers once stood, raising questions about the destruction. Explanation from a volunteer about how much of the debris fell into the ground and was pulverized, providing insight into the nature of the destruction. The aftermath of the 9/11 disaster reveals the immense challenges faced by rescue teams and the desperate situation of survivors trapped beneath the debris. Significant cleanup efforts are underway, with large amounts of debris already removed from the site. Survivors trapped in the North Tower's stairwell experience a life-threatening situation, realizing their helplessness. Amidst the chaos, a critical communication breakthrough occurs when a Mayday call from Captain J. Jonas finally reaches rescue operations. In this segment, Dr. Judy Wood discusses the seismic signals recorded during the collapse of Building 7 on September 11th, emphasizing the unique phenomena observed and the terminology used to describe them. Dr. Wood introduces the seismic signals recorded during the collapse of Building 7, noting their unusual characteristics. She explains the importance of using precise language when discussing unknown phenomena, advocating for new terminology to accurately describe the events. The concept of justification is introduced, referring to the way buildings turn to dust during their collapse, which is a phenomenon not previously observed. Dr. Wood elaborates on the collapse process, suggesting that as the building disintegrated, the water tanks within weakened, contributing to the overall failure. The video discusses the unusual characteristics of dust and debris following the collapse of the Twin Towers on September 11th, highlighting evidence that suggests a controlled demolition rather than a traditional collapse. The dust from the collapse did not disperse as expected, indicating a possible controlled demolition. The dust continued to rise and linger in the air for an extended period, raising questions about its behavior post-collapse. The condition of vehicles near the site, described as toasted, suggests an anomalous heat source or energy event. Observations of undamaged car components challenge the idea of conventional fire damage, indicating something atypical occurred. The video discusses the peculiarities surrounding the temperatures and conditions observed at the 9/11 site, focusing on the contradictions between reported heat levels and the physical evidence found. Introduction to temperature measurements indicating extreme heat, questioning the physical state of materials. Observation that certain materials, like trees and paper, did not burn despite high temperatures, raising questions about the nature of the heat source. Discussion on the melting of steel-toed boots while rescue workers reported no burns, suggesting an anomaly in the heat experienced. Speculation on the disintegration of boots rather than melting due to heat, implying other factors were at play. This section discusses the unexpected hurricane during the events of 9/11, highlighting the lack of public awareness and evacuation measures despite the storm's potential threat to Manhattan. Introduction to the hurricane's relevance to the 9/11 events. Discussion on the risk of flooding in Manhattan if the hurricane had not changed course. Emphasis on the underreporting of the hurricane by media and authorities. Observation of the hurricane's unusual path and timing relative to 9/11. Questioning why there were no evacuation orders despite the hurricane's presence. In this segment, Dr. Judy Wood discusses the unusual physical phenomena observed in the aftermath of the 9/11 events, particularly focusing on the behavior of materials and the implications of directed energy technology. Dr. Wood explains a concept of energy transfer using an analogy of dropping a rock in a pond, suggesting that similar energy ripples could cause structural damage. The discussion shifts to hurricanes and tornadoes, mentioning unusual occurrences such as debris being driven through solid materials, implying a deeper understanding of energy interactions. Dr. Wood references experiments by John Hutchison, showcasing how aluminum can be manipulated under specific conditions, raising questions about the physical properties of materials involved in the 9/11 incident. The segment touches on the peculiarities of melted metals found at Ground Zero, questioning the melting points of materials and their unexpected bonding, suggesting a different kind of energy influence. Dr. Wood describes samples with cylindrical holes and embedded materials, hinting at advanced technological processes that may explain the observed anomalies at the World Trade Center. Galilee, population. I have generated subtitles and a summary of Kevin's original 2017 presentation, which, given the nature of the material, has never survived long on YouTube. I first encountered Kevin's video back in 2016 when it was posted on YouTube. It will seem familiar ground after the past 4 years. Prescient, I guess you would have to call it. It has aged very well. This was my upload to BitChute in 2018 after the mirrored upload was taken off YouTube. BitChute video link gives due to YouTube censorship. Regarding the depopulation hypothesis, theory, evidence, and analysis. Kevin Galali's mandala diagram analysis is, I think, the most extensive out there still. International System of Depopulation Globalization explained by K. Galali. Why are we here? January 8, 2017. Why Are We Here? An essay provoked by Golem XIVS David Malone's latest documentary series. Why Are We Here? An essay provoked by Golem XIVS David Malone's latest documentary series. The 4 films are: 1. Meaning-seeking beings. 2. The reality of ideas. 3. The animal within. 4. The moral compass. Here is the link to the first part. Hi David, I look forward to finding a torrent in due course. Looks fascinating. That I really enjoyed the previews, stunning images. We expect nothing less from your lens. Rather silly that the Beeb or Channel 4 will not be showing it, especially in these days of iPlayer on demand. It begs the question, why did they air hypernormalization? What is Curtis S.'s secret sauce? I do not know why I am here at this moment in time, let alone who we are, or what we is, who, where, when, and why. What everyone else is doing, let alone why they are doing it. Personally, I would not know where to start finding out. Universals escape my possibility of imagination, let alone perception or understanding. I do know that I find ideas endlessly fascinating, and people's opinions on ideas are also fascinating. Even scientific truths are open to interpretation. The ceteris paribus and mutatis mutandis adjustment mechanisms always leave room for dogma or spin of one sort or another. Science is often said to be apolitical, detached, amoral even. I am not convinced that it ever is, any less than religion is. Both make truth claims to fundamental universal truths. Both are absurd without faith/belief and rely ultimately on appeals to authority, peer review, peer pressure, coercion to the greater power. The greater power being the arbiter over premature life and death, or prosperity or ruin ultimately, usually a soldier or magistrate, justice of the peace, priest or academician or motley committee of or squad of the same, will back up the authority by the required degree of censure, by the usual mechanisms of exclusion or elimination. The scientific method is a means of inquiry which is more useful than the general class of knowledge claims we call science or scientific truths. Materialism is, I think, more to do with the conclusions and received truths than the process of inquiry or scientific method, which has proven to be an excellent method for making discoveries within bounded limits. Does science, or more precisely the scientific method, do a better job than art in communicating the essence of the unknown and perhaps unknowable, or at least the immeasurable? This question does, of course, open up preferences for figurative or abstract and a posteriori or a priori reasoning, all of which have their own sets of believers or followers, factions or fanatics. I am also offended by the notion that one needs to be one or the other, and that materialism and idealism are of necessity or custom mutually exclusive. I do not believe they are, and there are more ways of being and acting than as through matter or thought in 3 dimensions of time and space. Both positions alone seem to lack an imagination for further dimensions beyond time-bounded 3-dimensional commonplaces. The competition between the two is an intellectual dick-waving competition. Far be it from anyone to spoil the fun of those who wish to participate. Girls can play too, but what they wave I will leave to each your own imagination. Ordinary, everyday matters of life's necessaries are more important to my own lights, though. It is these essential necessary areas where community leadership should stem from. Stock-taking is an empirical process which goes back to the foundation of mathematical and metrological tools applied to the question and problem of what do we have and how do we share it out. Priests and medicine men have always justified divine rights of power structure elites to determine these questions, and sadly, what we are told we are here for by both sides of the binary materialism-idealism debate lead to an implied notion that it is all too hard for those who have cares regarding the necessities of life to begin to understand. The subtext to the metrological questions of who gets what is you get what you are given and be grateful for the beneficence of the powers that be. They know best because God, markets, science or maths, or elitist job creation, etc., etc., etc. The eternal appeal to external authority. The most profound thing I think I have ever read is a short question posed in Neil Donald Walsh's Conversations with God. What would love do now? Population paper. December 23, 2019. Overpopulation paper. How big a waste paper basket airs? Quite so. Overpopulation paper. Overpopulation is a general term. The question can be broken down into two components. 1. Overpopulation, what is it? And 2. Overpopulation, do we have that problem? In these questions, Kipling's 6 Honest Serving Men will help us with both parts of the question. What and why and when, and how and where and who. Overpopulation. What is overpopulation? Overpopulation is a qualitative concept meaning more population than a certain amount. The boundary at which population is over or under is unclear. Why is it overpopulated? When an arbitrary or defined limit is set, one would ask why the overload/capacity state has occurred, how long it might have been that way, where the state has occurred if it is perhaps not present everywhere, but localized, and who are the members of the population that has met any particular definition of overpopulation. Do we have an overpopulation problem? Where do we see overpopulation as a state according to our defined boundary condition? To establish if we have reached a certain state, we need a measure. As we are talking about human population, then we would look at the number of people that there are. Fortunately, the United Nations has a large database of demographic statistical data regarding world populations. When we talk about overpopulation, are we talking about population in relation to physical space? Overcrowding. What the idea of overpopulation is that there are too many human beings for the available resources of life's necessaries. Water, food, and shelter, etc. This new measure, the measure of available resources, introduces more complexity to our inquiry into what overpopulation might be scientifically. To help to define the questions regarding our system, it would help to build a model of the system we wish to analyses. Population necessary resources, PR, resources, AR, where PR(AR) equals overpopulation. At its simplest, that simple equation is a model of what overpopulation would look like. If resources available for life's necessaries are less than the available resources, that would be overpopulation. We would have to add in a time factor, say, if the situation endured for a certain period of time, Tx, so PR(AR). Tx(n), where n to the power of y. With this equation, there is the added complication that this is not a fixed set of parameters. Population may go up or down. Resources available for life's necessaries may also go up or down. With such a large and complex question, one gets into scenarios and theoretical outcomes, what-ifs. There are many opinions of these what-if scenarios and no shortage of people that will offer their opinion as to why their particular what-if scenario is more likely than yours or mine to occur, because your opinion here. One such what-if scenario is this 2000 paper by Stephen B. Kurz. 1. Authentic Discourses blog Reasons to Act. May 4, 2017. Authentic Discourses on Decisions to Act. At cultstate.com. Authentic Discourses on Decisions to Act. A golden rule in folklore's canon. Holds what's sauce for the goose is sauce for the gander. Do unto others that which to you would be done. Thus applied in discussion, we should always avoid slander. Leave at the first introduction. The habits of authority and induction. When those listening seem deaf to what you tell. Refrain, if you please, from poisoning the well. If your working hypothesis requires certitude, refrain from tailoring cloth that renders the emperor nude. If to your point you wish others to allude, refrain from a hypocritical, sneering attitude. When your correspondent appeals to evidence, consider their sources, were they well meant? In all matters, skepticism will serve you with equivalence. And always remember to mistrust the government. Man müsse das Volk stets in Armut erhalten, damit es gehorsam bleibe. 2. Belloc characterized the Reformation as a rising of the rich against the poor, 1. And indeed Calvin had written the unfortunate statement, the people must always be kept in poverty in order that they remain obedient. 2. Page 198 Lost Science of Money. 1. Archive.org link to Calvin's quote. 2. Are we at cross purposes? A default setting, if we are honest with ourselves, is to anticipate most of what we are going to hear. So as much as we like to think we listen, being at cross purposes is likely far more common than we realize. Every conversation has its own unwritten small print. This small print is the lens with which all anticipation and interpretation of external information gets filtered back into our deeper thoughts and are assigned their proper place in our own conceptual order of meaning to ourselves, singularly not in any royal we sense, but sui generis to our own design between our individual self and the great cosmological static. When we gain knowledge of the world, are we experiencing it or are we thinking it? It is really a combination and a cycle between sleep and dreaming and awakeness and automatic experiences, external sensing and imaginings within our thinking portal. The eyes are the window to the soul looking in, but the soul is us looking out and acquiring physical experience of possibilities outside of our thoughtful imaginings. Our human being is a portal that offers access to dimensions of being and dimensions of thinking, and combines the dimensions of being and thinking when we employ our powerful interdimensional apparatus to synthesize shareable goods, or sometimes we synthesize a combination of bads. When we discover the truth, everyone will not be a winner. One can think of many situations and states of affairs which, should the truth be honored, then some group or collection of powerful interests may lose some previously justified privilege. This essaical melange is not, though, about the defense of the indefensible. It is about making our wishes clear, stating our opinions clearly and honestly, and seeking agreement. Agreement to disagree is a much preferable outcome to an enduring resentment against those with whom we differ about some matter or state of affairs. Whenever you get two people interpreting the same data in different ways, that's metaphysics, is a quote from an interview published in Scientific American with Thomas Kuhn, the coiner of the term and proposer of the concept of paradigm shifts. ScientificAmerican.com. What Thomas Kuhn really thought about scientific truth. We are not in the habit of stating the limits of which what we believe and state as fact will remain to be true and stand up to scrutiny. We tend to state our claims as if they were absolutes much of the time. The Good Life designed plastic toys in cornflakes packets. The basic theme of this video is that the sham of political choice presented as democracy is puppeteering of cloned politicians who parrot the neoliberal ideology of the oligarchical class, so that human slave farming can be continued with as little resistance or trouble from we plebs in the precariat as possible. I imagine the politicians we are offered as the plastic prizes given by corporations with our cereal packets in the morning. Tom Good in The Good Life designed them as his job. Plastic animals, not politicians. Wikipedia link the _Good Life on his 40th birthday. Tom Good is no longer able to take his job seriously and gives up work as a draftsman for a company that makes plastic toys for breakfast cereal packets. Link to lethamconfectsweeterlies.blog. Plastic May, Farron, Blair, etc. Organic Corbin. See Karaoke Politics. Mihop Lihop. Perpetrators. There is a huge amount of evidence that the U.S. defenses were stymied with complicity of a small number of senior figures in the U.S. government, implicating the U.S. deep state in the attack. Their support for the attacks is found in the fact that the events were covered up rather than investigated. Researchers differ on whether the cabal let it happen on purpose, Lihop, or whether they made it happen on purpose, Mihop. Mark Gorton suggests that the 9/11 operation was planned by George H. W. Bush, although he admits that he has no direct evidence linking him. 28. In recent years, increasing numbers of 9 to 11 researchers are supporting Chris Bolland's theories, which look at Mossad involvement. 29. And there does indeed seem to be a serious case to answer. Summarized on the 9-11/Israel Did It subpage. Search Lawn-Haired Musings for Make Plus It Plus Happen Plus on Plus Purpose. Search Lawn-Haired Musings for Let Plus It Plus Happen Plus on Plus Purpose. Socratic Learning Blog. July 6, 2012. Socratic Management, Learning by Remembering. Hashtag Placemaking Basics. Hashtag Authentic Placemaking. Hashtag Citizens Not Subjects. Hashtag The Cure. Hashtag Real RLD. Hashtag We Do Deals. Hashtag authentic placemaking, hashtag citizens not subjects, hashtag the cure, hashtag real RLD, hashtag we do deals. In the 1990s, Sir John Harvey Jones, the retired chairman of ICI, the chemical giant, presented a wonderful television series called Troubleshooter. I still have the book. I watched it eagerly as a young man and remember marveling at the informal, yet spellbinding wisdom that Sir John radiated in his trademark managing by walking around. Fast forward to today, and a blog I did last week about Lucian and his auction of philosophers in the slave market in Samos and the Pythagorean pitch of what his philosophy offered. I will not teach you, I will remind you. Then we have Socrates and his philosophy, an inquiry into the citizens of Athens' daily perceptions of reality, government by walking around and remembering by the famous Socratic method. The Socratic school of management is born, note bene. My vote for the Socratic manager of the 21st century is Ricardo Semler. 1. The CEO and majority owner of Semler and Company, a Brazilian company best known for its radical form of industrial democracy and corporate re-engineering. Another Sansai in the remembering of what we come to know again is Paulo Freire, 2, who is also Brazilian. Remember Freire's strong aversion to the teacher-student dichotomy. No tyrants they. Another minstrel and poet for the muse of the new Socratic school of management is Robert Smith, front man of The Cure. I was invited to their show headlining Roskilde last night by Roger O'Donnell, their keyboard player, a friend of mine. Roger reminds me of Timotheus, 3, Harmonide's teacher, who counsels his pupils not to seek the wisdom of crowds as a crutch for their own self-esteem. Better, to be admired by one's peers, secure in your own motivations of your true self. I do hope the reference is not construed as jumpin' on someone else's train. Moving swiftly on to the point about our poet, our Marcius, 4, and his guitar, not flute, emblazoned on Rober's Schecter guitar. Citizens not subjects. Pythagoras, you will study music and geometry. First dealer, a charming recipe, the way to be wise, learn the guitar. And a final word from Max Ehrmann, whose Desiderata, 4, sent me in search of a cure for my own amnesia. Go placidly amid the noise and haste, and remember what peace there may be in silence. As far as possible, without surrender, be on good terms with all persons. Speak your truth quietly and clearly, and listen to others, even to the dull and the ignorant, they too have their story. Avoid loud and aggressive persons, they are vexations to the spirit. In isolated elites, remote politicians, and financiers in far-off lands, what can they ever hope to be reminded of? Let's remember not to forget our own worth. 1. Reference wiki/Ricardo_Semler. 2. Reference.wikipedia.org/wiki/Paulo_Freire. 3. Reference sacred-text.com/CLA/Luke/WL2/WL208.htm. 4. Reference Wikipedia. Marcius. 5. Reference.businessballs.com/desideratapoem.htm. Greber CIA, no pushback from me on that. The Rojava anarchist movement, spook asset or spook operative, etc. The picture is one I posted to demonstrate David G. and Janice Verafuki's sniffing and enjoying the other's narratives, a reference to Da Vinci's observation on status in dogs. October 30th, 2017. I wanted to post some links to some interesting article from a new online magazine, new to me at any rate, called Roar, which bills itself as a magazine for and by anarchists. This account of attempted turning of Karine Hutzbot's organization is, I think, very relevant in wondering where did Roar come from. Is there a possibility that, as with, say, Vice magazine, its content will be edited and sanitized as controlled opposition? See the links to the writing of Dr. Stuart Gianni Bramall on these matters for some more examples of what my suspicions of new glossy publications are. I am especially suspicious given the involvement of, or latching onto, of David Greber and the CIA involvement with Rojava and suspicions of Zionist infiltration into the PKK Kurdish cause and other Kurdish causes. Ford Foundation and other foundations as conduits, pass-throughs, and fronts to disguise CIA funding for domestic operations. Robert Kennedy and JFK ghosts of revolutions past. Controlled opposition, glossy anarchy, Roar magazine and caution advised in quote, open mind in quote, conference. Does the CIA fund both the right and the left? Dr. Stuart Jean Bramhall. The Most Revolutionary Act. Memoir of an American Refugee describes how FBI harassment led a 54-year-old psychiatrist, single mother activist, to close my 25-year Seattle practice to begin a new life in New Zealand. It begins by describing the 15 years of covert harassment I experienced when I used my financial and social position as a doctor to assist two former Black Panthers who had occupied an abandoned school to transform it into an African American museum. What began as unrelenting phone harassment and illegal break-ins progressed to 6 attempts on my life and an affair with an undercover agent who railroaded me into a psychiatric hospital. Are the Kurdish people patsies for the Greater Israel Plan? September 28, 2017. British filmmaker killed by ISIS militants in Syria. Mehmet Aksoy from London was working as a press officer for Kurdish forces in Raqqa when military base was attacked. Reference voltairenet.org/article. Rojava, not all that it seems? April 30th, 2020. Double agents, turncoats and traitors, it seems so to him. Hashtag Shiva, hashtag Kennedy, hashtag vaccine disinfo, hashtag fake news, hashtag wrong Kindoff green, hashtag wrong Kindoff vaccine, hashtag fusion doctrine, hashtag COVID purpose at wiki_ballot, hashtag 4 pamphleteers at Grub Street Journo, at wiki_ballot, at financialize at JoeBlob20. Infiltration and controlled opposition are all part and parcel of the fusion doctrine. The present generation of spooks sees the general population not as citizens who they are serving to protect, but as the enemy of the so-called elite who they actually serve. I consider myself to be part of the establishment. I am a patriotic Briton and a Welshman. I am a Jew for Jesus with a simple nonconformist faith in the love of God. As such, I do not accept any notion of my country right or wrong. As an anarchist, I accept no lord or master and believe in self-ownership. I accept that the true motivations of others can never be known to me. I can only be known and know by my own actions and the evidence I witness from the actions of others. Actions do after all speak louder than words, written or spoken. April 14th, 2017. Gatekeepers Chomsky, Strawman and James Corbett, it seems so to him. I really like the Corbett report, that I always approach it with an open mind, and leave it with an open mind, and always having visited I have fed my curiosity. I have a similar attitude to Noam Chomsky's public lectures and writings. Epictetus is a famous Stoic philosopher. His Enchiridion handbook offers much practical advice to bearing the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune. Quite apt to the current discourse is this. 42. When any person harms you, or speaks badly of you, remember that he acts or speaks from a supposition of its being his duty. Now, it is not possible that he should follow what appears right to you, but what appears so to himself. Therefore, if he judges from a wrong appearance, he is the person hurt, since he too is the person deceived. For if anyone should suppose a true proposition to be false, the proposition is not hurt, but he who is deceived about it. Setting out, then, from these principles, you will meekly bear a person who reviles you, for you will say upon every occasion, it seems so to him. Reference Democracy Discourse Epictetus Stoicism.html. Reference Redline Settled Science End of .html. Reference Sign Symbol Stories Language.html. On gatekeepers and so forth, I highly recommend this online ebook. Reference Ford Foundation and other foundations.html. Reference StuartGeneBramhall.com 21st Century Revolution free ebook. As I said already, I really enjoy the Corbett report. An interjected edit follows from Roger Lewis. As with David Graeber, I owe an equal intellectual debt to Noam Chomsky. Both are now subject to calling out. Controlled opposition, are they or are they not? The same accusations are also leveled against James Corbett. This recent comment on Off Guardian, for instance. Watch, you are the power, #SolutionsWatch. Aloysius, May 30th, 2025, 6:55 p.m. I believe it was Noam Chomsky who first broached the idea of controlled opposition. Or maybe it was his co-author. Probably. Dull term, though. Something catchier might catch on better. Phony baloney revolutionaries, perhaps. There are many examples of this sort of thing. C.J. Hopkins. Add one of your own or several. This is a wonderful way of obscuring the truth, which they both have spoken and continue to speak. Corbett's How Big Oil Conquered the World, for instance. Seen in the following screenshot in the context of the Going Direct Paradigm Mind Map. It occurred to me a few days ago when I was writing my Full Money Enchilada post and Myths, Lies, and Oil Wars post that the assertion and legal actions brought against oil companies for covering up climate change research, similar to tobacco research and links to cancer, is a wonderful bait, and Swithaway formed the Petrodollar Weapons Coalition, as Bishler and Nitzen term it. Still about oil. The key stylized patterns we discovered more than 20 years ago, along with other regularities we have uncovered since then, remain pretty much unchanged. 1. Conflict in the region continues to correlate tightly with the differential profits of the weapon dollar-petrodollar coalition, particularly the oil companies. 2. Dominant capital continues to depend on stagflation to substitute for declining corporate amalgamation. And 3. Capitalists the world over now need inflation to offset the specter of debt deflation. How the U.S. uses war to protect the dollar. A house divided against itself cannot stand. Remember that, and know well that the forces of the state know it only too well. For them, They, the hierarchy that enslaves you, Machiavelli's The Prince and George Orwell's 1984 are both instruction manuals. Escaping the EU egregore matrix assisted by Prof. Victor Efimov. Every city or house divided against itself shall not stand. Matthew 12:25. George Barda and Extinction Rebellion, a case study in infiltration. Reference to / compassionaterevolution.net/about us. Back to the comments thread. Riant. Then reason really doesn't mean that much to you. Reason is all we have because it is the accurate patterning of cause and effect, and cause and effect is all that the universe has. I'm not a fan of Tim Morgan either. He kicked me out too in short order because he fears systematic, Socratic reasoning and prefers to cosplay up on his little soapbox in front of his followers. What else is new? Gail's a good woman who's willing to change and grow in reason despite her years. That's a rarity. I recommend that you lurk at our main site. Systems theory takes a while. Grub Street in exile. What reason does or does not mean to me is of no consequence to anyone but me. The main reason I am resisting shooting the breeze is that I have a business trip to the UK in a fortnight and my daughter's graduation this Thursday. My ficus is very much on my family and business, doing stiff rather than talking about it. I see you read Michael Kowalek. Michael is, I think, better placed than I to go into the weeds on all of this. Much deeper than I can tread, I am afraid, defo above my pay grade. Keep well and be well. Rog. Riant. You too, Rog. Good luck to you and your family during collapse. Grub Street in exile. A collapse is not inevitable. An engineered collapse is not possible, if not plausibly deniable. LIHOP and MIHOP are acronyms for Let It Happen on Purpose, or Make It Happen on Purpose. The 2008 financial crisis was avoidable, and the response to it negligent/corrupt. The 2019 event 201 was again at best an exaggeration, and at worst a MIHOP with a hugely negligent response. The fear of a collapse is almost as useful to those gaming the global financial system. Fear, doubt, and uncertainty FUD coupled to FOMO, fear of missing out, cause irrational, overexuberance, Greenspan, or madness of crowds. Mac K. I accept and realize that events such as the Bronze Age collapse or the medieval year without sun can happen, and may happen again. There's a massive solar store. Today, for instance, which cause volcanic and seismic activity hugely destructive locally, and sometimes regionally, and less often even rarely globally. Millenarianism is a thing personally I am not persuaded by the various flavors on offer. Desiderata by Max Ehrman. Desiderata, original text. This is the original text from the book where Desiderata was first published. Go placidly amid the noise and the haste, and remember what peace there may be in silence. As far as possible, without surrender, be on good terms with all persons. Speak your truth quietly and clearly, and listen to others, even to the dull and the ignorant. They too have their story. Avoid loud and aggressive persons. They are vexatious to the spirit. If you compare yourself with others, you may become vain or bitter, for always there will be greater and lesser persons than yourself. Enjoy your achievements as well as your plans. Keep interested in your own career, however humble. It is a real possession in the changing fortunes of time. Exercise caution in your business affairs, for the world is full of trickery. But let this not blind you to what virtue there is. Many persons strive for high ideals, and everywhere life is full of heroism. Be yourself. Especially do not feign affection. Neither be cynical about love, for in the face of all aridity and disenchantment, it is as perennial as the grass. Take kindly the counsel of the years, gracefully surrendering the things of youth. Nurture strength of spirit to shield you in sudden misfortune. But do not distress yourself with dark imaginings. Many fears are born of fatigue and loneliness. Beyond a wholesome discipline, be gentle with yourself. You are a child of the universe no less than the trees and the stars. You have a right to be here. And whether or not it is clear to you, no doubt the universe is unfolding as it should. Therefore be at peace with God, whatever you conceive him to be. And whatever your labors and aspirations, in the noisy confusion of life, keep peace in your soul. With all its sham, drudgery, and broken dreams, it is still a beautiful world. Be cheerful. Strive to be happy. By Max Ehrmann, 1927. The Welsh Incident. By Robert Graves. Read by Richard Burton. Welsh Incident, 1929, by Robert Graves. But that was nothing to what things came out. From the sea caves of Criccieth yonder. What were they? Mermaids? Dragons? Ghosts? Nothing at all of any things like that. What were they then? All sorts of queer things. Things never seen or heard or written about. Very strange, un-Welsh, utterly peculiar. Things. Oh, solid enough they seemed to touch. Had anyone dared it? Marvelous creation. All various shapes and sizes, and no sizes. All new, each perfectly unlike his neighbor. Though all came moving slowly out together. Describe just one of them. I am unable. What were their colors? Mostly nameless colors. Colors you'd like to see, but one was puce. Or perhaps more like crimson, but not purplish. Some had no color. Tell me, had they legs? Not a leg or foot among them that I saw. But did these things come out in any order? What o'clock was it? What was the day of the week? Who else was present? How was the weather? I was coming to that. It was 3:30. On Easter Tuesday last. The sun was shining. The Harlech Silver Band played Markhog Jesu. On 37 shimmering instruments. Collecting for Carnarvon's fever hospital fund. The populations of Poolhelly, Criccieth, Portmadoc, Borth, Tremadoc, Penryn Dewdraith were all assembled. Criccieth's mayor addressed them. First in good Welsh, and then in fluent English. Twisting his fingers in his chain of office. Welcoming the things. They came out on the sand. Not keeping time to the band, moving seaward. Silently at a snail's pace. But at last. The most odd, indescribable thing of all. Which hardly one man there could see for wonder. Did something recognizably as something. Well, what? It made a noise. A frightening noise? No, no. A musical noise? A noise of scuffling? No, but a very loud, respectable noise. Like groaning to oneself on Sunday morning. In chapel, closed before the second psalm. What did the mayor do? I was coming to that. What happened next? I was coming to that. Best. Rog. See also. Going direct isn't working part 3. Black Rock and the rise of algorithmic control. The full money enchilada. And myths, lies, and oil wars. Q here. Sisyphus, K of Q's, QK, coup de K. Sisyphus pushed his boulder. The path smoothed both ways. The same incline repeated. Parmenides like determination. Prometheus chained over the hill. Willing that Sisyphus may succeed. Pantaray, alike to his own flame. Both legends for deaf ears. Heraclitus his ebb and flow. Crying metaphors to deaf masses. Sobbing similes to blind tyranny. Calvary the summit to that bluff. Maimonides saw each contradiction. Each species of deafness loud. Each species of blindness dark. All no less perplexed than the next. Yet another Sisyphus rolls. Yet another Prometheus reveals. Yet another Heraclitus cries. Yet another Maimonides interprets. Ancient and modern cueing. Missed cues and repeated lines. A dialogue of the Divine Comedy. Stockade in linguistic prison walls. Plus ça change, plus ça même chose. Roger G. Lewis, 2022. #QED